Lena woke slowly, her body heavy with the kind of tired that sleep could not fix. The room was dim, lit only by the soft amber glow of the city's nightlights filtering through the cracked window. Outside, the hum of hover traffic and distant sirens formed a low, constant drone, the sound of a world trying to pretend everything was normal. But nothing had been normal for weeks. She turned her head on the thin pillow and saw Silra. The elf-like woman lay on the floor just a few feet away, wrapped in a tangle of scorched blankets that smelled faintly of ozone and burnt sugar. Her skin shimmered even in the low light, pale silver with faint blue undertones like moonlight on winter ice. Her long hair, the color of storm clouds, fanned out around her head in messy waves. One slender hand rested near her face, fingers curled slightly as if holding onto a dream. She looked peaceful, fragile even, but Lena knew better. Silra was not fragile. They had been sharing this tiny apartment for 21 days. 3 weeks since the evacuation order from Sector 9. 3 weeks since the sky split open and strange ships rained fire on the outer colonies. 3 weeks since Lena, working a late shift at the hydroponic repair depot, found Silra collapsed in an alley behind the loading docks, bleeding from a wound that glowed faintly green and wouldn't clot. Lena had no reason to help her. She barely had enough ration credits for herself. But something in Silra's eyes, wide, golden, and filled with a kind of sorrow that felt ancient, made her drag the stranger inside. She patched her up with med gel from the emergency kit and gave her half her protein loaf. Silra hadn't spoken for 2 days. When she finally did, her voice was soft, musical, and carried an accent Lena had never heard before. "Thank you," she had whispered. "You should not have done this," but Lena had shrugged. Someone had to. Since then, they lived in careful silence. Silra never asked for anything. She slept on the floor, ate only what was offered, and spent hours sitting by the window watching the sky with an expression Lena couldn't read. She never mentioned where she came from or why she was on Earth, and Lena never asked. Some questions felt too dangerous. Now as dawn crept closer, something felt off. Lena sat up slowly, the thin mattress creaking under her weight. The air in the room was thick, charged like before a thunderstorm. Her skin prickled. She looked toward the window. Vix was there. Silra's pet dragon, though pet felt like the wrong word, stood rigid on the narrow sill, his small body tense, tail coiled tight. He was no bigger than a house cat, with sleek obsidian scales that drank the light and eyes like molten copper. Tiny horns curled back from his skull, and his wings, usually folded neatly against his sides, were half spread. Trembling slightly, he was hissing, not a loud sound, but a low, continuous growl that vibrated in the quiet room. His gaze was fixed on the sky, unblinking. Lena swung her legs over the edge of the bed and stood, bare feet pressing into the cold floor. She moved quietly, not wanting to startle him. As she neared, Vix flicked his ears but didn't turn. His claws dug into the metal frame of the window. "What is it, little guy?" she murmured. Silra stirred, her eyes opened slowly, golden irises narrowing as she took in the room. She sat up in one smooth motion, the scorched blankets falling away. Her movements were quiet, precise, like a predator waking. She didn't speak, but her gaze locked onto Vix, then shifted to the window. Lena followed her eyes. The sky was wrong. It wasn't just dark. It was empty. The usual glow of orbital stations, the blinking lights of cargo drones, even the faint shimmer of the atmospheric shield. All gone. The city below was still lit, but above, the stars seemed dimmer as if veiled by something invisible, and in the distance, near the horizon, a thin ribbon of violet light pulsed once, then vanished. Silra rose to her feet, silent and swift. She moved to the window, placing a hand on Vix's back. The dragon leaned into her touch but didn't relax. "They found us," Silra said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lena's stomach dropped. Silra didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned and looked at Lena for the first time with something like regret in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I did not mean to bring this to your door." Lena swallowed. Bring what? Before Silra could reply, the lights in the apartment flickered. Once, twice, then died completely. The hum of the air recycler stopped. The soft beep of the ration dispenser went silent. Outside, the city's ambient glow dimmed block by block, until only emergency strips along the streets remained, casting long, ghostly shadows. Lena's heart pounded. She grabbed the old flashlight from the nightstand and clicked it on. The beam cut through the darkness, shaky in her hand. "What's happening?" Silra's expression hardened. "They are cutting the grid." isolating the block. They do not want witnesses. Who are they? The keepers of silence, Silra said. Hunters of echoes. They believe my kind should not exist, and they believe anyone who shelters us is just as guilty. Lena stared at her. Your kin Silra hesitated, then nodded toward Vix. He is not just a companion. He is the last of his line, a skyfire dragon. His kind once guarded the bridges between worlds, but a long war, wiped them out. All but him and me. I was his keeper. Lena looked at the small dragon who now turned his head and met her eyes. There was intelligence there, awareness, something far older than his size suggested. You're telling me he's special more than special, Silra said. He is a key, and they will burn this city to ash to take him. As if on cue, a deep resonant hum filled the air, not from outside but from above. It vibrated through the walls, the floor, even Lena's bones. Vix let out a sharp chirr, his scales rippling with heat. Silra's hand went to the small pouch at her belt, pulling out a smooth black stone that began to glow faintly. They are scanning, she said, looking for his signature. We must move now. Lena's mind raced. Move where this was her home. The only place she had left since the depot shut down. But the fear in Silra's voice was real, and the way Vix was acting, this wasn't paranoia. Okay, Lena said, voice steadier than she felt. What do we do? Silra moved to the closet and pulled out a worn satchel. She tossed Lena a small device that looked like a comms earpiece but with strange glyphs etched into its surface. Put this in. It will mask your biosignature. They are not looking for humans, only for traces of dragonfire in the air. But if you stay near me, they might notice you by accident. Lena slipped it in. It felt warm, almost alive. Silra fastened the satchel across her chest and scooped Vix into her arms. The dragon curled against her, wings tucked tight. He was surprisingly light. We go through the maintenance tunnels, Silra said. They lead to the old subway lines. From there, we can reach the river district. It is less watched. Lena grabbed her jacket and the emergency ration pack from under the bed. She paused at the door, looking back at the small room that had been her refuge. Now it felt like a trap. You sure about this? Silra met her gaze. No. But staying here is certain. Death. Lena nodded. Then let's go. They stepped into the hallway. The emergency lights cast long, jagged shadows. The air was still, too still. No voices, no footsteps. Even the usual drip from the ceiling pipe on the third floor was gone. They moved quickly, silently, down the stairs. At the second floor, Silra froze. She held up a hand. Lena stopped behind her, breath held. From below, a sound. Not footsteps, not voices. A soft rhythmic clicking like metal tapping on stone. Then a low hum, similar to the one from before but closer. Silra's eyes widened. They are already inside. She turned and pulled Lena toward a narrow service door marked with a faded biohazard symbol. It led to the building's old waste chute access, a forgotten passage most tenants didn't know existed. Lena followed, heart hammering. As they slipped inside, the clicking grew louder. Something was coming up the stairs. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and smelled of rust and mildew. Silra led the way. Vix now perched on her shoulder, eyes scanning the darkness ahead. Lena kept close, the flashlight beam bouncing off corroded pipes and cracked tiles. After several minutes, they reached a rusted ladder leading down into deeper darkness. This goes to the main utility corridor, Silra whispered. From there, we can reach the subway tunnels. But we must be quiet. They can hear heartbeats if they listen closely. Lena nodded, throat dry. As she climbed down, she glanced back up the way they'd come. Far above, a sliver of light appeared under the service door. Then it vanished. They were being followed. But Silra didn't look back. She pressed forward, her steps sure despite the darkness. Vix let out a soft, almost inaudible purr, and the air around them seemed to grow warmer. Lena didn't know what waited ahead. She didn't know who these hunters were or why they wanted a small dragon so badly, but one thing was clear. Her quiet life was over and the war had just found her doorstep. The utility tunnel stretched ahead like a throat swallowing them whole. Pipes lined the walls, some dripping with condensation, others humming with faint energy. The air smelled of wet metal and old oil. Lena followed Silra closely, her boots splashing in shallow puddles that reflected the dim beam of her flashlight. Vix sat on Silra's shoulder, eyes half closed but ears twitching at every distant sound. They had been walking for nearly an hour. The city above felt like a memory now, distant, unreal. Down here, time moved differently, slower, heavier. Silra stopped suddenly. She raised a hand and Lena froze. Ahead, the tunnel forked. To the left, a rusted gate blocked the path, padlocked and covered in faded warning signs. To the right, the corridor sloped downward into deeper darkness, the floor slick with something that shimmered faintly under the light. Silra pointed right. That way leads to the old metro lines. The gate is sealed. We cannot go back. Lena nodded. She didn't ask how Silra knew. She had stopped questioning the elf woman's knowledge after the first hour underground. Silra moved like she had walked these tunnels before, even though she claimed she'd never been to Earth until 3 weeks ago. They pressed on. The slope grew steeper. The air grew colder. Vic shifted on Silra's shoulder, his small body radiating warmth like a living heater. Lena was grateful for it. Her jacket wasn't meant for underground chills. After another 20 minutes, they reached a wide chamber. Broken tiles covered the floor, and the walls were lined with shattered display cases, remnants of an old transit station long abandoned. Faded posters hung crookedly, their colors bleached by time. One showed a smiling family boarding a maglev train. Another advertised a concert from a band no one remembered. "This place is dead," Lena whispered. "Not entirely," Silra replied. "Some things sleep. Others wait." She walked to the center of the platform and knelt. With careful fingers, she brushed dust from a metal plate set into the floor. Beneath the grime, strange symbols glowed faintly blue. Too precise to be human, too old to be new. Lena stepped closer. "What is that waypoint?" Silra said, "left by those who came before?" "My people once walked these tunnels. Not on Earth, but beneath it. They built hidden paths between worlds. This station was one of their anchors." Lena stared. "Your people were here long ago," Silra said. "Before your cities rose, before your wars began. We came in peace, we helped, but humans feared what they did not understand. They turned on us, sealed the gates, erased the records. Only fragments remain." Vix hopped down and sniffed the symbol. He let out a soft chirp and the blue light brightened for a moment before fading again. "He remembers," Silra said, a sadness in her voice. "Dragons never forget." Lena looked around the ruined station. It was hard to imagine beings like Silra walking here, helping humans only to be driven away. It felt wrong. Unfair. "So why come back?" Silra stood. "Because the dragon chose you," Lena blinked. "And not you alone," Silra said. "But Earth, your world still holds the echo of the old alliance. The dragon sensed it. That is why he hatched here. That is why I followed." Before Lena could respond, a low vibration shook the platform. Dust rained from the ceiling. Vix hissed and leapt back onto Silra's shoulder, wings flared. "They are close," Silra said. Lena's stomach tightened. How close? Silra closed her eyes, listening. Then she pointed down the tunnel ahead. 3 levels below. "They are moving through the drainage shafts. They know we are underground. Can they track us? Not easily. But Vix's presence leaves a trail in the air, like heat in cold water. They are following the warmth." Lena swallowed. "So what do we do? Reach the heart of the station?" Silra said. "There is a chamber beneath the old control room. If we can activate the core, it will mask our signature." For a time, they moved quickly now, urgency in every step. The tunnel narrowed, then opened into a collapsed section where rails twisted like broken bones. Silra climbed over the debris with ease, Vix clinging to her back. Lena struggled but kept up, her hands scraped and her breath coming fast. At last, they reached a heavy metal door marked with a faded bio-seal. Silra placed her palm against it. The symbols on her wrist glowed softly, and with a groan of rusted hinges, the door slid open. Inside was a small control room, untouched by time. Consoles lined the walls, their screens dark but intact. In the center of the room sat a pedestal with a smooth crystal sphere resting on top. It pulsed with a slow, steady light, blue like the symbol on the platform. Silra approached it reverently. "This is a resonance core. It was used to stabilize the gateways. If we wake it, it will flood the tunnels with neutral energy, enough to hide us." "How do you wake it?" "With memory," Silra said. "And truth." She placed both hands on the sphere, closed her eyes, began to speak in a language that sounded like wind through ancient trees. The words were soft, melodic, but carried weight. The air grew thick. Vix sat on the floor watching, his eyes wide. Lena stood back, unsure what to do. Then the sphere brightened. Light spread across the room, crawling up the walls, filling the space with a gentle hum. The consoles flickered to life, displaying symbols that shifted and danced. Suddenly, images appeared in the air, ghostly projections, figures in flowing robes walking beside humans, great ships hovering over mountains, dragons soaring through skies filled with twin suns. Then fire, screams, gates closing, silence. Lena gasped. "What is this? Our shared past?" Silra whispered, tears in her eyes. The truth they tried to bury. The projections faded. The light dimmed. But the hum remained steady and strong. "It is done," Silra said. "They will not find us here. Not for a while." Lena sank onto a broken chair, her legs weak. "So all of this, the war, the hunters, it started because humans betrayed you." Silra nodded. "Fear breeds betrayal, and betrayal breeds war. The hunters are not evil. They are afraid. They believe that if the dragons return, the old wars will return with them. They think wiping us out is the only way to keep peace. But that's not true." Silra looked at Vix, who patted over and nuzzled her hand. "No, it is not. The dragon does not bring war. He brings choice. The choice to remember, to heal, to try again." Lena thought about that. About the world above, broken, divided, struggling. Could it really change just because a small dragon existed, as if hearing her thoughts? Vix turned and looked at her. His copper eyes held something deep, something knowing. Then a new sound broke the silence. Not from outside, from the comms unit on the wall. Static. Then a voice. "Any survivors?" "Sector 9. Repeat. Any survivors?" Lena rushed to the console. The screen flickered, showing a broken signal. She twisted the dials, trying to stabilize it. After a few tense seconds, a face appeared. Grainy, exhausted, but familiar. Mira, Lena's old co-worker from the depot. Her face was smudged with soot, her hair tied back in a messy knot. "If anyone can hear this, they're taking people, not killing them, but taking them, to the spire. They say it's for questioning, but no one comes back." The signal cut out. Lena's hands shook. Mira was alive. But for how long? Silra watched her. "You know her, she worked with me," Lena said. "She's good. Brave." Silra was quiet for a long moment. Then she said the spire is their command center, a floating fortress above the city. If they are taking prisoners there, they are searching for information. About me, about Vix. Lena looked at her. "We have to help her." Silra's expression tightened. "It is too dangerous." "Myra helped me when I had nothing," Lena said, voice firm. "I won't leave her." Silra studied her face. Then she nodded slowly. "Very well. But we cannot go alone." Lena frowned. "Who else is down here?" Silra walked to the far wall and pressed a sequence of tiles. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "There are others," she said. "Those who remember. Those who waited." Lena hesitated. "Who are they?" "People who never forgot the Alliance," Silra said. "They have been watching. Waiting for a sign. The dragon's hatching was that sign." She stepped into the passage. Vix followed without hesitation. Lena took a deep breath. Then she followed. The passage led downward, spiraling like a root into the earth. The walls were smoother here, carved with the same symbols as the platform. The air smelled clean, almost sweet. After several minutes, they reached a large cavern. Lena stopped in awe. The space was vast, lit by glowing crystals embedded in the walls. People moved among the shadows, some human, some not. Tall figures with silver skin like Silra's. Others with scaled arms or eyes that glowed softly. In the center of the cavern, a fire burned, not with flame, but with cool blue light, and around it sat a circle of elders, their faces lined with time. One of them stood as Silra entered, an old woman with white hair and eyes like polished stone. "You have come," she said, her voice like dry leaves. "And you have brought the spark." Silra bowed her head. "I have, and we need your help." The elder looked at Lena. "And this one, she stood with us when the sky fell." Silra said, "She is of the old bloodline. Her ancestors walked with ours." Lena didn't understand, but the elder nodded as if it made perfect sense. "Then she is welcome," the elder said. "The time of hiding is over. The dragon has returned, and with him the choice." She turned to the circle. "Prepare the path to the spire. It is time to remind the world what it forgot." Lena looked at Silra, heart pounding. "What does that mean?" "It means," Silra said softly, "that we are no longer running." Above them, far beyond the stone and soil, the city held its breath, and the war began to stir. The cavern hummed with quiet energy. Figures moved with purpose, gathering tools, checking gear, speaking in low voices that blended into a steady murmur. The blue fire at the center pulsed gently, casting long shadows that danced across the stone walls. Lena stood near the entrance, arms crossed, watching. She felt out of place among these people who moved like they shared a secret language older than cities. Silra approached. Vix curled around her forearm like a living bracelet. She handed Lena a small belt with pouches and a thin blade sheathed in dark metal. "Wear this. It will help you move unseen." Lena took it, fingers brushing the cool metal. "Where are we going to the spire?" Silra said, but not the way they expect. She led Lena to the far side of the cavern where a narrow tunnel opened into darkness. "This leads to an old service shaft beneath the spire's foundation. It was built during the First Alliance. Hidden, forgotten, but not gone." "How do you know all this?" Silra's eyes softened. "My grandmother walked these paths. She told me stories. I never believed them, until now." They entered the tunnel. The air grew cooler, drier. The walls were smooth, carved with care, not haste. Every few meters a faint symbol glowed, guides for those who knew how to read them. Vix walked ahead now, his small claws clicking softly on the stone. He seemed to know the way. After what felt like hours, the tunnel opened into a wide chamber. In the center stood a platform ringed with pillars. Each pillar held a crystal that glowed with soft white light. Above them, the ceiling was open to the sky, or what should have been sky. Instead, a massive structure loomed overhead, its underbelly bristling with sensors and weapons. "The spire. We are directly beneath it," Silra whispered. "This is the anchor point. From here we can ascend." Lena looked up. The scale of the spire was overwhelming. It hung in the air like a blade, silent and sharp. Lights moved along its surface, patrols maybe. Or worse, how do we get inside? Silra pointed to the platform. "This is a lift, powered by resonance. It will take us up through a maintenance conduit, but it must be activated." She stepped onto the platform and placed her hands on the nearest pillar, closed her eyes, began to hum, a low resonant note that made the crystals brighten. The air vibrated. Vix sat at the edge of the platform, tail curled around his feet, watching. Lena felt a strange pull in her chest, like something deep inside her was answering the hum. She didn't understand it, but she didn't fight it. Slowly, the platform rose. Silently, smoothly. Sliding up through the stone like water rising, the walls blurred past. The hum grew louder, filling her ears, her bones. She gripped the edge of the platform, heart pounding. When they stopped, they stood in a narrow metal corridor. Pipes lined the walls, hissing with steam. The air smelled of oil and ozone. Distant footsteps echoed from somewhere ahead. Silra motioned for silence. She drew a slender rod from her belt, dark, flexible, glowing faintly at the tip. A weapon, Lena realized. Not for killing. For disabling, they moved like shadows. Silra knew every turn, every blind spot. She avoided cameras with ease, slipped past patrols without a sound. Lena followed, her own steps clumsy at first, then steadier as she learned to match Silra's rhythm. Vix stayed close, his small form blending into the dim light. Whenever danger neared, he would stiffen and Silra would freeze, waiting until the threat passed. After what felt like forever, they reached a heavy door marked with a red symbol, a circle with a line through it. "Restricted access. This is it," Silra whispered. "The holding level. Prisoners are kept here." Lena's breath caught. "Mira." Silra placed a hand on the door. "The lock is coded, but Vix can disrupt it." The dragon hopped forward and pressed his snout against the panel. A soft blue flame flickered from his mouth, not hot but charged. The panel sparked. Clicked. The door slid open with a quiet hiss. Inside was a row of cells, each made of transparent metal. Most were empty, but at the far end, a figure sat slumped against the wall. "Mira." Lena started forward, but Silra grabbed her arm. "Wait." She pointed. Two guards stood at the end of the hall, their forms tall and faceless, clad in smooth black armor that seemed to drink the light. Their weapons hung at their sides, sleek and silent. "Hunters." Silra's voice was barely a breath. "They do not sleep. They do not blink. But they can be tricked." She pulled a small device from her pouch, a disc no bigger than a coin. She pressed it to the floor and gave it a gentle push. It rolled silently down the hall, stopping near the guard's feet. A moment later, it emitted a pulse, soft, invisible. The guards turned toward it, heads tilting in unison. "Now," Silra said. They moved fast, Lena's heart hammered as she reached Myra's cell. The woman looked up, eyes wide with shock. "Lena, how no time," Lena whispered. She looked at Silra. "How do we open it?" Silra placed her palm on the lock. Vix added his flame. The door slid open. Mira stumbled out, weak but alert. "Who are you, a friend?" Silra said simply. "We must go. Now." They turned to leave, but the guards were already turning back. One raised a hand. The air around them shimmered. "Run," Silra said. They sprinted down the hall, boots echoing on metal. Behind them, the guards gave chase, their steps unnaturally quiet. The corridor twisted, branched, narrowed. Silra led them through a maintenance hatch into a ventilation shaft. "Crawl," she urged. They crawled through tight metal tunnels, the air thick and hot. Vix moved ahead, his small size an advantage. Mira struggled but kept up, her breathing ragged. After several turns, they dropped into a storage room filled with crates and old machinery. Silra sealed the hatch above them. "Safe for now," she said. Mira leaned against a crate, catching her breath. "Who are you people?" Silra looked at her. "We are the ones who remember." Lena helped Mira sit. "Are you hurt?" "Just tired," Mira said. "They kept asking about a signal. A dragon. I didn't know what they meant." Silra's expression darkened. "They think you know where he is." Mira looked at Vix, who sat calmly on a crate watching her. "That's a dragon, the last one," Lena said. Mira stared. Then she laughed, a tired, broken sound. "All this, for a lizard, he is more than that," Silra said gently. "He is hope, and they fear hope more than war." Before Mira could respond, the wall beside them shuddered. A deep crack split the metal. Then another. Dust rained from the ceiling. "They found us," Silra said. The wall exploded inward, not with fire, with silence. The hunters stepped through the smoke. 3 of them now. Their armor gleamed under the dim lights. Their faces were smooth, featureless, no eyes, no mouth. Just blank surfaces that reflected nothing. Silra pushed Lena and Mira behind her. Vix flared his wings, a low growl rumbling in his chest. "You cannot hide the flame," one hunter said. "Its light betrays you." Silra's voice was calm. "The flame does not hide. It reveals, then reveal it," the hunter said. "And end this." Vix leapt forward. His flame erupted. Not red, not orange, but deep blue, almost violet. It struck the lead hunter, who raised a hand. The flame split around him, harmless. But Silra wasn't aiming for him. The flame hit the ceiling, melted the support beams. The roof groaned. "Run!" she shouted. They bolted for the far door as the ceiling collapsed behind them, burying the hunters in rubble and molten metal. They didn't stop running until they reached a wide chamber filled with old machinery. Gears, pipes, humming consoles. A control room of some kind. "What is this place?" Lena asked, breathless. "The Spire's core junction," Silra said. "If we can overload it, the whole structure will go into lockdown. Buy us time." Mira looked around. "I can help. I worked on systems like this at the depot." Silra nodded. "Then do it." Mira moved to the console, fingers flying over the controls. Lena stood guard at the door, heart pounding. Vix sat on a console, eyes fixed on the hallway. Silra watched the hunters approach on a flickering screen. "They are digging out." "We have minutes," Mira cursed under her breath. "The system is locked. Needs a bio key." Silra stepped forward. "Use mine." She pressed her hand to the scanner. The screen flashed red. "Denied." "They blocked your access," Mira said. Silra's eyes narrowed. "Then we use another way." She looked at Lena. "Your blood carries the old echo." "Try." Lena hesitated, but she stepped forward and placed her hand on the scanner. The screen flickered. Green. "Access granted." Mira's eyes widened. "How? Because she is of the bloodline," Silra said. "The ones who once stood with us." Mira didn't argue. She typed faster. The hum of the machinery grew louder. Lights flashed. Alarms began to blare, soft, distant. "It's working," Mira said. "Lockdown sequence initiated. 10 minutes until full seal." "Good," Silra said. "Now we find a way out before they trap us inside." But as they turned to leave, the main screen lit up. A new figure appeared. Tall, armored, but different. His armor was silver, not black, and on his chest was a symbol, a dragon coiled around a star. He looked at Silra and bowed. The hunter stopped. Silence filled the room. Silra stared at the screen, her face unreadable. The war had just changed. The silver-armored figure stood motionless on the screen, head still bowed. The alarms continued to blare in the distance, but inside the control room, time seemed to slow. Even Vic stopped growling, his copper eyes fixed on the image with something like recognition. Silra took a step forward, her voice quiet but sharp. Kale. The figure straightened. His face remained hidden behind the smooth mask, but his posture shifted. Less rigid, more human. You live, sister. Lena glanced at Silra. Sister Silra didn't answer. Her hands clenched at her sides. You lead the hunters now. I lead those who remember the truth, Kale said, not the fear. Mira looked between them, confused. Who is this? Silra's voice was tight. My brother. Once a guardian of the flame, now, I did not know he still lived. Kale stepped closer to the camera, his silver armor catching the flickering light. The war changed after you vanished. The council fell. The fear grew. I did what I had to do to keep the flame's memory alive. You hunt your own kind, Silra said. You track the last dragon like prey. I protect him, Kale replied, by drawing the true hunters away. By making them believe I serve their cause. All this time I waited for the signal, for the hatching. For you, Lena's mind raced. So he's not the enemy. Silra was silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Mira. Disable the lockdown now. Mira hesitated. Are you sure? Do it. Mira's fingers flew over the console. The alarms faded. The red lights dimmed. Outside, the distant clang of metal stopped. Kale's voice came through the speaker, softer now. There is little time. The High Command suspects my loyalty. They watch my every move. But I have secured a path for you, through the lower spire, to the river gate. Why help us now? Lena asked. Because the dragon has chosen, Kale said. And when the dragon chooses, the old pact awakens. Earth is not just a hiding place. It is the cradle. The place where it all began. Silra's eyes narrowed. You believe the legends. I believe what I see, Kale said. And I see you standing with a human who carries the bloodline. That has not happened in 10,000 cycles. Vix leapt onto the console and let out a soft chirp. The screen flickered, and for a moment the image of Kale shimmered, revealing not a mask but a face. Sharp features, silver skin, golden eyes like Silra's, but older, wearier. Silra exhaled slowly. Where is the path? Follow the blue conduit, Kale said. It leads to Sector Gamma. There, you will find the gate. But hurry. The High Command sends the Silence Warden. If he arrives, even I cannot stop him. The screen went dark. Silra turned to the others. We move now. They left the control room quickly, following a narrow corridor marked with faded blue stripes along the walls. The air grew colder, the hum of the spire's core fading behind them. Vix walked ahead, his small form tense but focused. Mira kept close to Lena. So your roommate is some kind of space elf royalty? Lena gave a tired smile. I just thought she was quiet. They reached a heavy door marked with a coiled dragon symbol. Silra placed her hand on it. The metal warmed, then slid open with a sigh. Beyond lay a wide chamber, circular and open to the sky above. Moonlight poured in, casting silver light over ancient machinery, rings of metal suspended in midair, humming with quiet energy. In the center stood a platform, etched with the same symbols Lena had seen in the underground station. The river gate, Silra whispered. It's beautiful, Mira said. It is a key, Silra said, not a door. It does not move through space. It moves through memory. Before Lena could ask what that meant, a deep vibration shook the chamber. The rings above them trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. They are here, Silra said. From the corridor behind them, figures emerged, taller than the hunters, cloaked in black that seemed to swallow the light. At their center walked a being with no armor, no weapons, just a smooth, featureless face and eyes that glowed faint white. The Silence Warden. He did not speak. He did not need to. His presence alone made the air feel thin, empty. Vix hissed and flared his wings, but even his flame seemed dimmer in the warden's shadow. Silra stepped forward. You were never meant to walk this world. The warden tilted his head. The flame must be extinguished. It brings chaos. It wakes what should sleep. It wakes truth, Silra said. And truth is not chaos. It is clarity. The warden raised a hand. The rings above them stilled. The hum died. The gate went dark. You cannot stop what has already begun, Silra said. I already have, the warden replied. Lena looked at Mira. We can't let him win. Mira nodded. I have an idea. She ran to the nearest console, pulling wires from her pouch, salvaged from the depot, jury-rigged for emergencies. She jammed them into the port, sparks flying. The rings shuddered. What are you doing? Silra asked. Overloading the feedback loop, Mira said. If I can force a surge, it might reactivate the gate long enough for us to pass. It will burn out the system, Silra said. Better than letting him win. Mira shot back. The warden began to move toward them, slow and inevitable. The hunters spread out, blocking every exit. Silra turned to Lena. Hold Vix. Keep him close. Lena scooped up the dragon, who pressed against her chest, warm and trembling. Silra closed her eyes and began to chant. Her voice rose clear and strong, weaving through the chamber like wind through trees. The symbols on the floor glowed. The rings above them began to spin, slowly at first, then faster. Blue light filled the room. Mira shouted, It's working. The warden raised both hands. The light dimmed. Silra's voice grew louder. Vix lifted his head and added his own sound, a deep, resonant hum that blended with hers. The air crackled. The ground shook. Lena felt something inside her stir, a memory not her own. Voices, laughter, starlight over green fields, humans and silver-skinned beings walking side by side, dragons soaring above them, wings wide and bright. The gate flared to life. A circle of light opened in the center of the platform, shimmering, deep, endless. Go, Silra said, breathless. Mira grabbed Lena's arm. Come on, they ran for the platform. The hunters lunged, but Vix unleashed his flame, a wide arc of blue fire that forced them back. The warden reached for them, but Silra stood in his way. You cannot erase memory, she said. It always returns. The warden's eyes flickered. For the first time, he looked uncertain. Lena, Mira, and Vix stepped into the light. The world dissolved. Sound vanished. Color blurred. Time stretched and snapped. Then they stood in darkness, cold stone beneath their feet, damp air in their lungs, the distant sound of water. They were in a tunnel, wide, ancient, lit by soft crystals in the walls. Where are we? Mira whispered. The river district, Lena said. I recognize the sound. That's the old aqueduct. Vix hopped down and sniffed the air. Then he looked back the way they came, ears flat. Silra wasn't with them. Lena's heart dropped. She stayed behind. Mira stared at the empty space where the gate had been. She sacrificed herself, no, Lena said. She bought us time. But before they could decide what to do next, footsteps echoed from deeper in the tunnel. Not hunters, not the warden, people. Figures emerged from the shadows. Humans, dressed in patched clothes, faces smudged with dirt, but eyes sharp with purpose. At their lead was an older woman with short gray hair and a scar across her cheek. Lena Jones. Lena blinked. Ms. Ellis, the woman smiled. I knew you'd make it. We've been waiting. Waiting for what? For the signal, Mrs. Ellis said. For the dragon. For the return? She looked at Vix, who tilted his head at her. Then she knelt. In the name of the old alliance, we stand ready. Lena looked at Mira, then at Vix. The war wasn't over. But they were no longer alone, and somewhere above, in the heart of the spire, Silra faced the silence warden, not with fire, but with words. And for the first time in centuries, the warden listened. The tunnel hummed with quiet energy. The group around Lena stood in a loose circle, their faces lit by the soft glow of wall crystals. Mrs. Ellis rose from her crouch, her eyes never leaving Vix. He sat calmly, tail curled around his feet, watching her with ancient eyes. You know about him, Lena said. We remember, Mrs. Ellis replied. Not all humans forgot. Some of us kept the stories alive, passed them down in whispers, in songs, in dreams. We knew the dragon would return when the world needed him most. Mira rubbed her arms, still shivering from the gate's passage. Needed him for what? Awake us, Mrs. Ellis said. Not just humans, all of us. The fear has ruled too long. The silence has lasted too many generations. The dragon's fire does not burn to destroy. It burns to reveal. Lena looked down at Vix. He blinked slowly, as if confirming her words. Where is Silra Gnomes? Ellis's expression softened. She stands where she must, at the heart of the storm. But she is not alone. Your brother is with her. Lena frowned. Brother Kale, Miss Ellis said. He has walked both sides of this war. Now he chooses his truth. Before Lena could ask more, a low rumble shook the tunnel. Dust drifted from the ceiling. The crystals dimmed, then brightened again. "They are coming," someone whispered. Mrs. Ellis turned. Not them, the spire. Something is changing. Above them, far beyond stone and soil, the sky began to shift. In the spire's central chamber, Silra faced the Silence Warden. The hunters stood motionless along the walls, their presence heavy but still. Kale stood a few steps behind Silra, his silver armor dull in the dim light. "You speak of memory," the warden said, "but memory brings pain, loss, war. We erased it to protect this world." "You erased truth to control it," Silra replied. "There is a difference." The warden was silent. For the first time, his smooth face seemed less like a mask and more like a question. Silra stepped closer. "Look at her," she said, nodding to the screen behind them. "The one who carried the dragon. The one who stood with me when she had no reason to. She is human, and yet she chose trust over fear. That is the truth you tried to bury." The warden turned. On the screen, Lena stood in the tunnel, Vix at her side, surrounded by others, humans and not. United not by blood, but by choice. "That is not enough," the warden said. "One moment of courage does not undo 10,000 years of conflict." "No," Silra agreed, "but it is a beginning, and beginnings are the hardest part." Kale spoke then. "The council is gone. The old laws are dust. We make new ones now, or we fall together." The warden looked at his hands. "For so long I believed silence was peace, but peace without truth is just another kind of prison." He turned to Silra. "What would you have me do? Let the flame burn?" she said. "Let it show us what we lost, and what we can become." The warden nodded slowly. Then he raised his hands, not to stop the gate, but to open it wider. Above the city, the spire pulsed with light. Not red, not black, but blue. The same blue as the dragon's flame, the same blue as the old alliance. In the tunnel, the crystals flared bright. The walls trembled. Then from deep within the earth, a sound rose. A hum, low and steady, like a heartbeat waking after a long sleep. Miss Ellis placed a hand on the stone. "The gate is opening. Not just here, everywhere." Lena looked at Vix. He stood tall now, wings half spread, eyes glowing. He knew what was coming. Mira touched Lena's arm. "What do we do now? We choose," Lena said. And in that moment, the truth unfolded. The dragon's fire was never about power. It was about potential. The potential for humans to remember their connection to other worlds, to heal old wounds, to stand not as conquerors but as partners. But it came with a cost. Once the flame spread, Earth would be seen again, not just by allies but by enemies. The galaxy would know humanity was awake. Silra had told her this, back in the ruined subway station. The choice was real. Lena looked at the faces around her, Mrs. Ellis, Mira, the others who had waited in the dark. They were scared, but ready. She turned to Vix. "Are you sure about this?" The dragon chirped softly and nuzzled her hand. Then Lena made her decision. "We stay," she said, "but not like before. Not hiding, not forgetting. We prepare, we teach, we rebuild the alliance." Miss Ellis smiled. "Then we begin tonight." Above them, the sky cleared. The violet ribbon that had pulsed on the horizon vanished. In its place, stars shone brighter than they had in years. And among them, new lights appeared. Ships, distant but approaching. Not with weapons, with signals, with hope. In the spire, Silra watched the sky through the observation deck. Kale stood beside her. "She chose to stay," he said. "She did," Silra replied, "and that changes everything." The Silence Warden joined them, his form less imposing now, more human. "What happens next, we watch," Silra said. "We guide, but we do not interfere. The choice belongs to them now." Back in the tunnel, Lena sat on a stone ledge, Vix curled in her lap. Mira handed her a canteen of water. Miss Ellis gathered the others to plan. For the first time in a long time, Lena felt calm. The war was not over, but it had changed. It was no longer about survival. It was about becoming. Vix purred, warm and steady. The crystals glowed softly, and somewhere far away, a gate opened between worlds. Lena looked up at the tunnel ceiling as if she could see the stars through the stone. She was ready.